I was surprised because this was unnecessary. I mean, or something that might be the point he could have ignored. For those who've been living under a rock, what happened was this. Eric Abidal, who is the sporting director at Barcelona, he gave what I think he probably saw was a pretty innocuous milquetoast, 2 interviews, in fact, one of them with the Catalan newspaper Sport. And there's a line in the interview where he talks about the departure of Valverde, which, if you read the whole thing, it's pretty contradictory because he says the relationship between the dressing room and the coach was good. And then he says, in the next sentence, he says, there's some people in the dressing room, I'm paraphrasing here, basically didn't like him, or I'd grown tired of him, or we're no longer happy. I read this as like Abidal just as, we've all had this with athletes. Oh, it's another microphone in front of us. Let's just talk nonsense and contradictory stuff and not say anything and move on. Messi obviously read it and got rather annoyed because he went through the trouble of reposting that segment from Instagram. He highlighted it, which I don't even know how to do with social media posts. So Messi's ahead of me there. And he said, if you're going to say stuff, I don't like doing this, but if you're going to say stuff like this and call people out, then name names, right? We had a long meeting, apparently, between Abidal and Bartomeu, and it all got walked back. Now, at the time, I saw 3 scenarios. Either Abidal gets fired straight away, or Abidal apologizes to Messi and they bend over backwards and the whole thing gets basically walked back, or Messi leaves at the end of the season. It looks as if everything's been walked back. And presumably Abidal said, hey, sorry, tronco, and, you misread it, whatever. But is it significant that Messi didn't take this to Abidal first before going to Instagram?
Well, that is a good question. I mean, I think. Look, obviously, the context to it is Messi has taken on so much responsibility at Barcelona over the years, and feels like, okay, I take enough as it is without you trying to give me other people's dead bodies. I'm not carrying this one. The fact that it was public, I think, is probably a response to the fact that the interviews were public, if you sort of mean. In other words, this is coming out publicly. You are publicly calling out the players. I'm not having that. And so I'm going to respond in the same way. I'm going to respond on the same kind of platform.
Sorry if I jump in, because this is another important thing. Messi, in public at least, defended Valverde until the very end, right?
Yes, he did.
And so this kind of implies that, he's also a two-faced liar
Messi
as well.
felt he was pointed at him, right?
Yeah. Specifically at him.
Well, I think that's an important part of this as well. Is that Messi is saying a couple of things. One is, don't give me the responsibility for this, and the other is, don't accuse me of something when actually I'm one of the ones who did defend Valverde. Don't you let people believe that I was saying one thing publicly and another thing privately. Don't you let people believe that I was somehow responsible for it when in fact I was defending him. Because of course, if there are players unsatisfied, and this is the other thing that's interesting in this, of course, Messi doesn't, despite the implication, defend the dressing room as a whole. The fact that he says name names, it's him saying, this isn't me, pal. There may well be players unhappy with Valverde, and we know, in fact, that there were a few that were not particularly pleased with it, and that the dressing room wasn't entirely united in terms of position on Valverde. But it's Messi saying, look, don't bring this dead body and leave it on my doorstep. It's nothing to do with me. And so I think the public response is about that, and is about, I think, in part saying, well, you go public, well, I go public, because actually I'm not having this. Because of course, if he goes to, I suppose, I mean, how thought through this is difficult to judge. But if he goes to Abidal and says, come on, you can't say this, and then maybe Abidal says a couple of days later, well, I didn't quite mean it like that, it just looks weak, and it looks like the club's back down, and Messi is still, that question mark is still raised. I think this is Messi's way of saying, no, I'm fighting this. And that has to be a public fight. Surely
Messi knows that Abidal is useless and incompetent. He failed to bring Neymar back when everything was there, and clearly Messi had expressed his desire to see Neymar back. He failed to get anyone in January, a striker, anyone. He made a joke of the club and of himself by going to see Xavi. He couldn't have been more public in his visit to Xavi.
He didn't go alone. He got we went with his friend Oscar the Grau.
Yeah, but no one cares about Oscar Grau. But Abidal himself made a joke of himself and of the club by doing that.
Okay, but you good point on Abidal, giving Abidal stick. But isn't this?
Why, you disagree now?
No. I think you're right, but I kind of feel like the other people who've been there. I mean, somebody published a graphic, which I'm going to steal from my Monday Musings column today, about Barcelona's sort of 23 or 24 signings under Bartomeu and like how the
Yeah,
vast
that was
majority
me.
of them- that was you. Well, you know what? Like, it's not just Abidal. It's Abidal. It's Robert Fernandes.
I don't
it's
care.
freaking Pep
we're talking
Segura.
now. We're talking,
No.
we're
but-
talking this argument with Messi now.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.